No, my friend, this won't take long at all. Jared Aaron's, your district, what, 2017? 17.
Formerly
17.
22.
Formerly 22. Right, Jared Aaron's, City Councilor, District 22, District 17, rather. Obviously, data centers are a big deal. Decatur Township, a lot of folks are here tonight saying no to the data center. Just your thoughts overall.
I think it's a difficult thing for all the counselors in general because we don't know all the odds and ends that's happening in the particular counselor's district that's dealing with them. I have my own set of ethics and moral guidance on what I would want addressed. And I don't know if those things such as energy usage and making sure they're covering not only their costs, but they're covering their infrastructure costs, they're creating if they're using 125 megawatts, they're also creating 125 megawatts somewhere else. So it's not adding cost to the grid system, which then you and I end up having to pay for if they don't cover it. So I don't know all the odds and ends, but it's always, I'm of this opinion of always. After all the information's been presented, good, bad, ugly, when the residents stand opposed, I think that's the way that you've got to go. If you can't convince residents to be supportive of something, then, I just don't think it's a good thing.
Obviously, like I said, data centers have been somewhat controversial at the state level here in Marion County. What are your thoughts, or what do you need to know to make a decision one way or the other? As you folks gather your information, what are your top few concerns?
Well, I think for me, a lot of it's environmental. It's addressing the energy concerns. It's addressing the water concerns. It's addressing that the cost is not going on to the ratepayers. My electricity bill has been high enough, so I'm right there with everybody else on that component. It's a matter of, do they offer a community benefits agreement above and beyond anything that they're paying in taxes that makes sense for the communities that would have them in their backyards? I think there's a world where there are some that can go through. I think there's a world where some don't go through. There's obviously, I think, a very high-level ethical component of this about the AI and things of that nature. That's above, I think, our pay grade at the local level. I think it's a national issue to be addressed. So that's my 2 cents on it.
So what will you need to make, what information are you looking for to make an official decision later this spring?
Well, I think the council and the administration have got to put together a strong parameter of what our expectations are. We need to be clear. That's good for everybody. It's good for the residents. It's good for anybody that wants to come in and build them. Here is our starting point. This is our expectations. So again, that's going to go back to what I'm saying, addressing the energy concerns so that energy bill is not going up because of that data center. It's addressing the water concerns. It's addressing making sure that long-term, if that data center doesn't work out, we're addressing the concerns of residents and that they're committed to, tearing them down and putting the land back in a good condition for future development for that community. For me personally, that's some of the starting points that I'm at. And then I think above that is community benefits agreement. What these things are receiving huge tax abatements on their equipment, on their property. So what are they going to bring to the communities in value? There's a lot of things. There are some communities that may want them because they might be able to address some of the needs they want to get done that don't necessarily fall within the city's budget or the state's budget to address it. I will say I agree with the term, not all data centers are, created equal. I think some show up and they are willing to be community partners. I've read cases in other cities and states. I think some come in here like bullies and just think they can run over people and get what they want.
I know one of the big issues, or not necessarily a big issue, I was doing some research on data centers, and what they do is with the assessed value of the land, that increases the value of the land, but also a flip side of that is it lowers the residential property taxes for residents. Now you have the data center sort of picking up a bigger portion of the property tax tab.
So you're hitting on a point that I don't think is really shared a lot, and that is data centers don't consume a lot of government usage. They don't send kids to schools. They don't require a lot of fire, police. They don't require city services. So they pay a lot in tax revenue that can then be used to address things. But it goes back to addressing all of those concerns on the front end. And I think there's a world where you can do it. They're going to have to be responsible corporate citizens. And they just can't come in here and think they can pillage the communities or the cities. There's a way to get it done, but it's going to take them being able to bend a little bit and work with us.
I know let's talk about data centers over in the Martindale-Brightwood area over on the east side of town where the old mall used to be in that neck of the woods. Is that something that maybe folks like, maybe not a big data center, maybe like sort of mini data centers?
Well, so I actually think that it's probably where they could be used most with regards to redevelopment, used in areas that have some industrial site or blight, and it's a way to get some new revenue in to address some of the community things. I would tell you too, I think the approach to this is the community, right? If they want it, if they're okay with the data center, the community has to be the one that's going to benefit from it. It cannot just be that we're adding tax revenue to the city's coffer so everybody else gets this money. The immediate community needs to be advanced from it. This is an opportunity because they do pay a lot more in taxes because it's a heavy investment in smaller areas. You know, Sabi, for example, they talk about in Decatur. The previous development, I think, was like $120, $130 million. This is multi-billion. So you're talking about a scale that's very different, drastically. It's just whether or not I think the city outlines it clearly, and also the district councilor has got to be smarter. They've got to show up and negotiate on behalf of their communities and get quality things for them as well.
What have you been hearing from your constituents in particular? For, against, or people still want more information, or how would you, in a non-scientific sort of way?
I think just about everybody's opposed to them, to be honest with you. It's until you address the energy usage, nobody's really going to be okay with them. They are a big factor in a part of the rising energy costs. It may not necessarily be because they're using 125 megawatts, but it's because the infrastructure, the grid systems are having to be updated, which is costing hundreds of millions of dollars to happen across states. So that is being passed on to the residents, the ratepayers, and they're having to be updated in part because of the data center consumption. So I'm going to go back to, I think there's a road to be done where you can map it out to get them done. They've got to be a part of the equation of addressing all the energy, addressing all the infrastructure costs, and making sure they're paying for their use of that energy as well. If you can't get those things from the very beginning, I think it's a non-starter.
Two final questions for you.
We're getting a 40 or 50-year tax abatement on the equipment. People have to understand the building itself is not where the value's at. It's the equipment inside of it. It is worth billions of dollars. So if we have been so kind to give them 40 and 50-year tax abatements on this equipment, then you're going to have to address those other concerns. That's where I'm at.
Two final questions. Number one, moratoriums. Any thoughts on that blanket Marion County moratorium on data centers?
If you're looking at it from a standpoint of energy and energy costs, doing a moratorium here doesn't fix that. People have to understand the grid system and how it works. 13 states or 12 states on the grid system. If you build them in Ohio, we're going to pay for it. You build them in Illinois, we're going to pay for it. You build them in Michigan, we're going to pay for it. That's just a part of it. That's why it would be smarter to address those concerns on the front end if it can be done. And I don't always know if it can be. Just as we've seen, there were some that wanted to come to Indianapolis that are now went into donut counties. So Indiana's not going to have a moratorium. That's not even in question. And most of the states around us won't have moratoriums either.
Final question. Have you spoken to the City Hall, the folks at 25th floor about this, or have any conversations?
Have I spoken to the 20th administration about data center? We're having conversations right now about a proposal that we're working on that I hope we can introduce sometime in potentially April, at the latest May, I think, to help address what we're hearing from residents.
Jared Evans, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.